No. Let's look at testosterone. Nobody in the world wants to admit that testosterone is a hormone that does what it does. You know what? Guys are guys because God made us that way. We're never going to be girls. I used to tell the kids all the time, and I used to tell other people, God didn't make me a mama. I don't have a mother's bone in my body. I am not. I understand how she is to the kids. That's being a mama. And that's how God made her. But He made me a man. They could mess up, and I could look at them, and I could go, that is really stinking funny. And I could beat the living tar out of them. And then when they were off balling in a corner, I could go, that was really funny. Mamas can't do that. They think it's funny, and they just got to laugh right there. Because that's mamas. But guys, we're not mamas. And mamas, don't forget, we're not mamas. We're guys. We have testosterone. What does testosterone do? Well, we're going to talk about that, a lot of things. Testosterone, very early, the first 6 months is very high, and then it drops off. We don't really know all the reason about that, but it drops off until puberty, and then it starts to go up. From 16 to 25, it's way up. By the time you're 40, your average testosterone level is about half what it was when you were 20. And by the time you get to be my age, you go, what happened to that hormone? Where did it go? You send out a search party, you know. There's still some there, but it ain't like it used to be. It's like, how many people know anything about country music? You know, this was really based on that when Toby Keith sang this song. I ain't as good as I once was, but I'm as good once as I ever was. Basically, the older you get, now things change. Which reminds us, I'll throw it in right now. Ladies, those of you that are married or have been married, do you know, and since I know that you two are, Victoria, whether he's ever told you or not, do you know that I'd be willing to bet money that Matthew knows his record day for sex? Women don't. But guys do. I do. I remember the first time we said it, and I remembered one day I was between 35 and 40. I think the kids were at school, and I had the day off, and I said, babe, let's see what we can do today. And I tied it. I was one proud little rooster, let me tell you. And now, that is a distant memory. It changes. That's just the way guys are. Why? Because testosterone does what testosterone does. And when you're 20, it's way up there, you do a bunch of stupid things. Okay. You've heard of anabolic steroids in the Olympics and things. Anybody here from East Germany? Good. I'll insult you anyway if you are. In 1980, the East German women's team was setting all kinds of swimming records. They were winning all the golds in the Olympics and everything else, and everybody goes, how does this happen? Because in 1979, they were all coming in dead last in all the swimming meets. Yet in 1980, they were all winning. And American swimmers, American female swimmers, were complaining that they would walk into the locker rooms, you know, the changing rooms and things, and it sounded like there were men in there, but they could never find them. And they wondered what was going on. And only till years later when the Berlin Wall fell and then other things happened, and we found some of the records, and we found out that the East Germans had completely doped up all these girls on anabolic steroids. They literally turned girls into guys, because that's what testosterone does. It builds muscle mass, builds rage, builds all that. That's the anabolic part. The androgenic part is the sexual characteristics, the libido, sex drive, and sexual characteristics that distinguish us. But the anabolic aspect of all of the steroids, and testosterone is one of the strongest anabolic steroids out there, had turned all these women into men. The sad part is now, when you look at those ladies now, 30 years later, they're either dead or dying. All from cancers and other things. All because of what they did to them. We know about the harmful effects when you take too much, but that's some of the effects of testosterone. And I postulate that when you reach a threshold level, as I tell Rena, you know, a hormone's going to do what a hormone's going to do. When you get enough insulin, it's going to do what it's going to do. You say, well, don't drop the blood sugar down to 20. But the fact is, if I take all your arms right now, shoot you up with 100 units of regular insulin, your blood sugar's gone down. And if I give you another 100, it's really gone down. And there's a threshold where you're toast whether you like it or not. Okay? Well, I believe there's a threshold of hormones that when you reach that threshold, it's just there. And it does what it does, and it causes guys to act the way they do. And you know, when your threshold is up there, you're going to do something to get rid of it. We talked in the past a lot about abuse, spouse abuse, kid abuse, things like that. See, if my threshold is bumping way up here, I mean it's just out of the roof. If my testosterone is out of the roof and babe says to me, you're not touching me with a 10-foot pole, I've got to do something. And unfortunately that generally tends to take a lot of bad tracks, a lot of what I call tracks, a lot of bad ways. Y'all know about CDs, you know? And I don't know so much anymore that they built them in, but originally with the CD players, you could block a track. So let's say you had 10 songs on a CD and you put it in and you didn't want to listen to song 3 ever. You just block song 3 and the CD player would play 1, 2, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Okay, you didn't have to listen to song 3. But if you take the block off, then it'll play 3 again, right? 3 doesn't disappear. It's there, and only do you not play it as if you have a block on it. That's practical in a lot of ways. From a medical way, let me give you this one. I always tell smokers that want to quit smoking. If you're going to quit, you have to quit, and you can never have one. Because everything we do from the time we're that little baby till the time you're as old as I am, the oldest geezer in this room, everything we do, our brain sets up what I call brain tracks, like a CD track. It cuts a groove in our brain and never forgets anything. And when you do something over and over and over and over again, it becomes very routine. For instance, who do I want? Would you take this pen, please? Would you give it back? Would you tell me how you did that? Yeah, with your hand. But that's kind of a tough thing, you see. I learned this with my kids a long time ago. Basically what happened is she instantly said, even if, you know, this happened so fast, but her brain said, stupid, but I'll do it. You maybe didn't put stupid on it, but your brain decided you would do it. After that, everything happened automatically. Did she reach out here? No. She doesn't have a neurologic disease that would cause her not to be able to do that, okay? Someone with some conditions couldn't, but in this case, I know she's normal. I knew she'd be able to do that. And when I asked her to hand it back, once again, all she did was made the decision to do that, and the brain did it automatically. If you ever want to read an interesting book that's kind of deep reading, read the book called Psycho-Cybernetics by Maxwell Maltz. He was a plastic surgeon who worked for Hitler during the war, and after the war, he came over to America and did plastic surgery. And he wanted to know why some people he could do a plastic surgery and make them beautiful, and their whole life would change. And other people he'd do the same surgery, and they were just as pretty, but their life wouldn't change at all. And he started thinking about that, this was in the early 50s, and he started thinking about that and realized that we have these brain tracks that we play. And you see, in the first case, they put a block on the I'm ugly brain track. I've got this bad scar from a burn or for whatever. And they had started a new track that said, I'm beautiful. The other ones never did block that first one, so it didn't matter what they looked like. They looked at it and says, I'm still ugly. How's that important to this? We set up our brain tracks in everything we do. I first read that book when my oldest son was learning to feed himself. And see, the brain only remembers positive results. Positive has no moral judgment to it. It's not good or bad like God said it's good, God said it's bad. Positive means I did exactly what the person told me to do. She had positive results because the person told her take the pen, and then the person said, would you give it back, please? And she did both of those. Okay? Positive, positive. Brain's happy. Same thing as if I stand Sashi up here and put an apple on his head and go, I think I'll shoot that apple off. Now if I hit the apple, brain says that's what you wanted. If I hit his eyeball, the brain goes, whoops, negative result. He doesn't care that I killed him. It's just a negative result. And so if I can stand him up there blind and put another apple on, when I finally hit it, the brain goes, positive result, remember that one. That's why people who play sports do things over and over and over and over. You practice free throws until you can't even bend your knees anymore. Why? Because you are trying to set up those muscle tracks to automatically do the same thing every time, so that once you get it down, you can be the best free throw shooter out there. We all do that. We set up tracks with everything that we do. And Jimmy, as I'm watching him, he would go to start to feed himself, and sometimes he'd hit his face, sometimes he'd hit his nose, and that's why everybody takes these pictures that they got a camera with a little dirty, messy kid, you know. But pretty soon he hit his face all the time, the picture's gone. Why? Because the brain goes, he's always hitting his face, that's what I want. Okay? That's important, because the tracks that you decide to set up are the ones that are going to play. If you want to quit smoking, you've got to put a track on that how to smoke thing, which means you can never have a cigarette, because once you take one cigarette, you've taken the block off of that whole track, and the brain remembers how to do it perfectly. You don't have to tell it the next time where to reach for a pack of cigarettes. You know where you keep them, where to reach for your lighter. You know where you got that. When to have it, you know that every time after you have coffee in the morning, you have a cigarette. And pretty soon you're smoking just like you were before, and you go, what happened to me? The brain did what you told it to do in the past. Why is that so important sexually? Unfortunately, because sex is such a big thing to guys. Remind me to come back to Dobson. Because sex is such a big thing to guys. We tend to set up sexual tracks in our brain when we've gone through that puberty early, and we don't know how to handle it, or we may not know how to handle it correctly. And we go down and we set up tracks that may be based on pornography or sexual experiences with others, you know, that God says, I'm going to have bad consequences. I'm not here to judge anybody. We all sin. I'm just saying, we set up those tracks, and pretty soon the brain doesn't put a moral judgment on it. The brain says, well, for 100 times he said, that's what he wanted me to do. If you set up that track and you wonder, well, gee, why do I click on that site on the internet? If you've done it 100 times, the brain says, I'll just do it automatically for him, because that's why they sat down here, isn't it? Or if you somehow got some other skewed view of sex, and all of a sudden now you're married. Here I was with Rena. I'm not going to sit here and lie. It's nothing that nobody ever wants to talk about, but to say that as a young boy, long before I got married, I never saw or was involved in anything I shouldn't have been would be a complete lie. Now here I am with Rena. Sweet Rena. You think I'm going to tell her what I'm thinking in my brain when we're having sex? I know this face don't look too smart, but I even knew that wasn't too bright. Why? Because my window B, do you remember that window B? You wonder, how does that guy keep coming back to all the stuff he talked about before? Because I've done this a long time, and it's kind of like, it's what I do. That window B is up there. There is no way I'm going to talk to Rena about that. And you wonder why I say I might have been a rabbit my first 3 years, but our sex life wasn't that good. I didn't trust her enough to start to share some of those thoughts and fears of mine. Now she pretty much knows about me. Guess what? What's our best sex life now? But that, just like everything else, sometimes has to be approached slowly. It's not something you can just run into. They did a study. When you say about how fast that can happen, people go, well, that's not a real fast thing. They did a study, and they took, you see, for a long time, they couldn't measure what we call active testosterone. They could, but it had to come out of a blood sample. Now, let's be real honest. If you come out with a needle, what's going to happen? My cortisol level goes up, it's going to make it fall. But when we got our technology stuff that we could measure active testosterone in saliva, then all we had to do is go spit in a cup, and they could measure it. And so what they did is, once they got that, they took a bunch of guys, about 20 to 24 years old, at the height of their testosterone thing, they took them into a movie theater. And they started showing pictures up there of, you know, mountains and pretty scenery and mom and apple pie and just all these kind of things that are neither erotic nor stressful or just nothing. They're just pictures. And it said, spit in a cup, spit in a cup, spit in a cup. And they would measure people's active testosterone level. Now, we're all different. Not only by age are we different, but another way to easily tell who has more average daily testosterone is by their voice. Testosterone thickens vocal cords. And you musicians that play a bass,
You got big old strings on that bass.
Whereas if people play little bitty violin, it's way up high, there he is again. And it sounds like a bass is where it's at for me, but that's because I'm a bass. Testosterone thickens your vocal cords. So if you talk with a deeper voice, you have a thicker vocal cord. You have more testosterone on board routinely than a tenor who talks with a higher voice. Certainly than a soprano. Now every woman has some testosterone in her, just like every man has some estrogen in them. But it's not enough to make a difference. Okay? So they took these guys in and they measured all of their active testosterone levels. Then without telling them anything, they started putting erotic images up on the screen. And they said, spit in a cup, spit in a cup, spit in a cup. Now, what would we expect? We'd expect that it would take their testosterone levels up, because that's just how guys respond. How long did it take from the time the image hit the screen until they could measure it in the testosterone? Now remember, that image has to go into the brain. It has to get transmitted primarily to the testes that make most of the testosterone. They have to ramp up production. How long would it take you to ramp up a new paint thing at work? They had to ramp up production in the factory, dump it out into the distribution system, get it into the bloodstream. It has to circulate through the body, get up, and actually be taken out of the bloodstream, dumped into the saliva so that you can measure it. How long does that take?
30 seconds to a minute.
Not quite that fast, but that's pretty fast. It took about 5 minutes to get it from baseline to way up there. 5 minutes. Which means, you know, when you say, well, can I raise this testosterone? Yep. Babe has learned to raise mine in no time. That's the way life is. Now, they then went back to the pictures of the mountains and the pictures of the pie and the mamas and all of that good stuff. Said spit in a cup, spit in a cup. Got all these people back to baseline. And then they went to the picture of the dentist drilling in a tooth with the sound effects, the smoke a flying. You cannot imagine. And it said spit in a cup, spit in a cup, spit in a cup. 5 minutes later, their testosterone dropped way outside. Took the drill off, let it go up, back to normal. The fact is that, and here's the thing that's so different, you have to understand. Here's a woman. Once every 28 days, she ovulates and can get pregnant. What if we had a 28-day cycle, man? And what if my cycle was off 14 days from Rena? There'd be no math. The fact is that God made us, we have to understand, we're still animals. We're in the animal kingdom, we're humans. We have unique things, and that's all wonderful, but we're animals. And we're herd breeders, which means that, guys, it just makes intuitive sense, right? We got to be ready now. When she says, Bill, I need you, Bill says, where, when, and how? Because that's what I do. Now, that's easy to do when you're under 40. When you're up to about 60, you go, how much time do I have? How bad do you need me? Are you going to give me some time for this? You know, but it's not no. You don't say no. You just put a few qualifiers in it, okay? So, that's why it's so important. Ladies, just like men, you have to learn the female hormonal cycle so you don't mess it up and understand that that's the way it is. Women, understand that's the way we are. And you have the power to influence it, good or bad. And like everything else, I simply say, that's your choice. You want to get in their face and just ruin their testosterone level repeatedly? Hey, don't be surprised when he doesn't come home and he finds somebody else. Because just like Earth girls are easy,
Men are easier.
men are easier.